Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Order Up, the Final Order Cutoff show. We are back, and I am back after 2 weeks off to bring you guys all the amazing comics that are on Final Order Cutoff this Monday, August 11th. We have a lot of great books to talk about. I am so excited to be sharing these with you guys again, and we hope that you are sharing these with all the other sequential art fans that you know so they can get the books that they want. Now, on top of all those great books on FOC, we have an amazing guest in the way of Robert Venditti, which is going to be awesome, as not only is he going to be talking about his upcoming book that is on FOC this Monday, we have some special early announcements. So pay attention after this opener because it's going to get awesome. Hi everyone, I'm Mathias Lewis, and I'm here to talk to you about FOC, or Final Order Cutoff. It is the last chance that we, the comic retailers, have to finalize our orders for comics releasing roughly 3 to 6 weeks out from the Mondays we finalize our orders. We deal with this every Monday, but this is important to you, the consumer, because it is the perfect time to reach out to your local comic shop if you want any specific or guaranteed items. If you want the Jim Lee or Dan Mora covers of Justice League Unlimited, reach out to your local comic shop and let us know. If you want the new issue of Lilo and Stitch, this is the perfect time to tell us. Because as long as you can get us the orders before Monday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, that will give your local comic shop retailer enough time to finalize that order, adding in whatever it is you want, so they can guarantee when it releases, we have a copy set aside waiting for you. So, always reach out to your local comic shop before 6 p.m. on Mondays with the comics you want. The sooner, the better, to guarantee they're waiting for you. All right, and we will be talking about the comics that are on Final Order Cutoff this Monday, August 11th on today's show. We have my wonderful producer and the main host of the last 2 weeks, Kyle, here.
I'm so glad you're back, dude. Like, trying to pick the top 10 the last 2 weeks has been a nightmare. But I will say, I had a blast talking to Jeremy Shore last week. Like, he reminded me of books I had forgotten about and things that we had missed on FOC, like, because FOC didn't, just stuff that just brought me back to when I first got into comics. So it was great having him on. He's a great retailer, great guy. And Pete Tomasi last week, like, that's a big deal for me. I love Pete. So that was a great interview to have as well.
Yeah,
so, but I'm glad you're back, so you can carry the weight, man.
Yeah, I will say, though, nothing will ever make me feel more accomplished in life than the week that I couldn't be here, having, of all people, to fill in for me, the legendary Jeremy Shore of Titan Comics. You know, that is.
Well, I actually have a request for the next time you're gone.
Oh.
Somebody who wants to fill in.
We'll have to talk about that off air.
Not quite equal to Jeremy Shore, but also a legend in this business.
Man, I might need to get kicked off the show for a week.
Well, I need somebody who knows more than I do to be on the show. And so that's normally you. I could just come in with funny little anecdotes and side stories. But when you're not here, I need somebody who has some anecdotes and side stories to keep me on track.
All right. Plus, anything's better than this face. But
don't say that.
People aren't here to hear us, like that. They're here to talk about the comics that are on Final Order Cutoff. And for that, you need to know where to access them. So nowadays, there's mainly two websites that are key to getting all of your comics that are on Final Order Cutoff each week. And hopefully we'll find one universal one to replace it in time, or we'll find some great additional alternatives for some of the indie books. But for now, you can find just about everything at these two websites. First is Lunar Distribution. Lunar Distribution is going to be your location for Image, Oni, DC, Massive, Dynamite, Titan, and so many more. You'll go to a website that is lunardistribution.com. Scroll down just a little bit to upcoming FOC and make sure you're on the right date. August 11th will be this Monday's FOC, and you can scroll through everything. However, if you're a big fan of Marvel, IDW, Dark Horse, Distillery, Boom Studios, and the upcoming Ignition, amongst others, you're going to want to go to Penguin Random House's prhcomics.com. prhcomics.com. You'll see a nice little website like this. Right here, the very first thing they give us is the FOC for the next Monday. You can see FOC August 11th. Clicking that will get you to this little section here. And, well, it annoys us to no end. It starts out sorted by random, so I always recommend sort title A to Z. It will make your life easier. It'll make your retailer's life easier. And you get to see all of those amazing comics that are on FOC from publishers that I mentioned, including great manga publishers like Square Enix and Kodansha, or awesome items from companies like Out of Print that produce some really great material tied to your favorite comics, prose novels, and more. So I think we start with PRH.
Jeremy Shore told me last week, and I spent an hour after the show trying to figure it out, that there's a way to sort not by random, to have it sort not by random. But you know what you have to do? You have to be on the retailer side. So it's not even good for public use. But I spent way too much time trying to figure out how to make it sort not by random.
Well, one of these days we'll get a Penguin Random House guest on here to actually talk to us about how to best use this website. But that'll be a special show that we'll announce in the future.
I'll spend the whole show begging them to let me recode their website. Anyway.
Yeah. So let's start out with the PRH books that are on FOC this Monday, August 11th. As you can see, we're at PRH Comics here. And there's some great out-of-print items. That is the name of the publisher, Out of Print. They are not out of production. Some cool pins, t-shirts, hats, and these are accessible to any of your retailers who are getting PRH distribution, which is going to be the vast majority, if not all, comic retailers out there. Now, we start getting into the comics with trade paperbacks like the new Avatar: The Last Airbender Team Avatar Treasury Omnibus, which has all sorts of amazing stuff if you're an Avatar fan waiting for the upcoming film or more. Boom Studios' The Backstagers, which is James Tynion the Forest's amazing graphic novel that collects his series about a group of kids who work in their school's theater production. And it gives you a lot of fun, especially if you were ever a theater kid. There's a lot of familiarity you'll find there. But the first big one I really want to start off with is Battle World. We've had the incredible writer Christos Gage on as a guest before, but this is an exciting one that an editor came to him with a great approach with the idea of the battle worlds from Jonathan Hickman's Secret Wars. What if we can continue them? And of all things, I mean, you got to love it. Christos said, let's have our protagonist be a bit of an Ant-Man and drive the tale there. You're going to have characters hopping from battle world, multiversal concepts all throughout the MCU, the main Marvel Universe's multiverse. You're going to get a little bit of everything. It's going to have that Exiles feel to it, but with Marcus Toe's incredible artwork and Christos Gage's writing, I think this is going to really just blow everyone's mind. And, of course, the best way to start is getting that Future Imperfect with Maestro right at the beginning.
And Marcus Toe is going to add a lot to this book. Like, that art style is going to just be a perfect match for what this is set up to be, and the way Christos, I think, is going to want to tell this story.
Yeah. And then one of my favorite things I always want to point out whenever we're on the PRH Comics website is if you would like to see the additional covers, because there are 8 covers on this book. You can just click see additional covers, scrolls you right down here. You can see all of them there. I always want to point out, because this is a request we get from a number of retailers, The star up here saying it's an incentive variant means that not every comic shop is going to get it. Your comic shop may or may not. It is always worth reaching out to your retailer and asking, are you going to get this variant if it has one of the star incentive variants on there? And also expect that incentive variants are not always going to be cover price. Many times at most stores, they're going to be a little bit more expensive because they're harder to qualify for. But that being said, it's worth reaching out to the retailer if you want it, because maybe they will have it or get it for you at a great price, because that's what your local comic shop does. They love you and they want you to have some awesome things. Indeed. So, other great things on FOC, and you can see everything that is on FOC this week on these two websites. Make sure you scroll through and look, because we're only going to talk about the big spotlight ones. You might miss out on some great manga like The Bride of the Death God or Boyfriend, Sometimes Girlfriend that definitely catch my attention, but we don't have the time to chat about. Even wonderful trades like Berserker. But the next thing I feel the need to talk about is the Canadian writing Captain America. Yes, Chip Zdarsky is on his third issue of Captain America, and it is incredibly good. What can I say? Maybe I'm biased being, engaged to a Canadian, but it's shocking me how great these Canadians are at doing things, especially Captain America. Now, Captain America has been just unbelievable under Zdarsky and Sheedy's run. One of the things I want to spotlight is that throughout September, we're going to be getting Stitch-themed Disney variants on Marvel characters, much like the lead into the Lilo and Stitch movie well over a decade ago, where Stitch invaded all the Disney films. He is invading some Marvel classic covers. As you can see here, with Stitch invading, I want to say, what was that, Captain America 101's cover? Kyle's 104? 105?
It's the Madball cover.
Ah.
I don't 10 something 106.
Yeah. 106 maybe. Yeah, it could be. It was,
Right,
it was the first Captain America ongoing in the Silver Age. But nevertheless, Stitch, with his ice cream just makes this so much more fun. I've been loving these covers. I think it is great. I love seeing the homages that all state after with the classic comic artists. So in this case, Jack Kirby. But I'm a fan of Stitch. He's a great and goofy little alien, no matter how much of a death ball he is. And then him invading the Marvel universe in the covers are great. On top of that, you have some awesome storytelling from a wonderful creative team that is just really bringing Captain America to some new places. Next up, I already gave hint, but another thing I want to talk about on variants. It's weird that we're talking so many variants on today's show. But we have long had the theme of these great Alex Ross covers that have been overtaking the books at Marvel. Originally, this was a beautiful wall piece done at the Marvel offices that Alex Ross provided the artwork for. And they decided, well, we should make it so everyone can enjoy these. So they've been putting these individual Alex Ross cover pieces out. And it has continued. We went from the original piece to villains. Now we're getting even more characters. But this is the fun moment. This is, I believe, the first time I have at least noticed them doing this. They always make the open order, anyone can get it, Alex Ross cover, because there's a lot of Alex Ross fans out there. If you notice, this is the open order, the full color, wonderful Sheena on Eddie Brock Carnage #8. But if you look at the 1:100 ratio variant here, that is the Virgin sketch, you'll notice it looks quite different. The original pencils are very different from the finalized version, and there's even a bit of Kazar on there. So for once, it actually makes me want to track down these incentives. I want to remind everyone, not every comic shop is going to get them. You can always ask. They're probably going to go for a large amount of money, being such a high ratio variant. But for once, I'm really intrigued to grab these because you can see the variation in art. It's not simply the pencils of the painting. It is, I guess, the original concept, the original art before it was altered in the finalized form. And if you pay attention as we're going through today, you'll see a few of those alterations that kind of catch your eye and are a little intriguing to see how Alex Ross's mind works as he alters from pencils to final. So really cool things. And then, of course, you get Charles Soule's awesome Eddie Brock as Carnage. Another one that we should point out, Edge of Venomverse. If you've been loving the Venomverse versus Spider-Verse and you need a little bit more background on these characters, spinning out of that style that started with the Edge of Spider-Verse, we're getting an Edge of Venomverse. This is, I believe, the third Edge of Venomverse series. Brand new #1, and it will give us more background on some of the classic Venom characters. Another one worthy of note is Elon Musk, American Oligarch, from Daryl Cunningham. If you haven't read Daryl's very interesting political biography and socioeconomic biographies that he has done in comic graphic novel form, they're amazing. He did one on Putin's Russia, he did one on billionaires, and now he is doing one on Elon Musk. They obviously have a very strong political bias, but they're amazingly informative and very detailed. And even if for any reason you might disagree with the political bias that Daryl presents, because look, that's the fun of being in America, is you don't all have to vote for the same thing. You don't all have to agree on the same thing. We can have different people on different sides. The interesting thing I love in Daryl's is even when he leans one direction, you can be on either side of the aisle or completely outside of the building and appreciate the information that is provided and how it is handled. Daryl Cunningham is quite the talented mind for that, and he cites his sources and does good research. So you can, if you like these things or want to learn more about these, he gives you the starting point.
Yeah, that's one thing I want to point out, because we don't talk a lot of politics here on the EXP. So regardless of how you feel about the content of any of Daryl's books, any of the politics in any of Daryl's books, the sources he cites and the references he uses are very straightforward. So even if it is slanted a little bit because of Daryl's own take, the places he's getting this stuff are real, they're nonpartisan, they're all that kind of stuff. So even if you're a fan of Musk, there's still something here for you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's one of those things we should always take in consideration. I will always express my love of anybody who, cites their sources or does their own research beyond just quickly typing things into Google. I love the idea, no matter who you are, no matter what you believe, when you take the time to exemplify your knowledge by stating where it came from and sharing it with others. So, knowledge is key. Bias is nature. It comes with us all, but knowledge is key.
Knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe taught us.
Yeah. All right. By the way, another one I have to point out, because we talked about those Alex Ross ones. Look at the difference on these beautiful, Kitty Pryde and Lockheed variants right there. It's subtle with the background difference in the 1/100, but also where Kitty's eyes are facing. I like the pencil with Kitty looking at Lockheed as opposed to looking above Lockheed there, but really, really cool and fun stuff. We also have the Foreshadow logo variants. If you're not aware of the upcoming Age of Apocalypse that will be overtaking Marvel this fall, you're getting the heads up on how your favorite X titles are going to be renamed on these Foreshadow variants. I'm personally buying them just so that way when we get to that retitling, I know which series is which, because the Exceptional X-Men, as you see, will soon become the Expatriate X-Men, and that will be my hint when I'm filing my comics later. Oh, Kyle hates that Age of Apocalypse.
If you still don't know how I feel about Age of whatever the heck it's going to be,
Boo this man!
Kyle, not a fan of it.
I'm still angry about the way they released that information.
Yeah, I would agree. I am super excited for the upcoming Age of Apocalypse. I love the original one in the 90s. I think it has so much fun. I love the idea of Cypher as Revelation. But yeah, it was a mishandled information drop, and it's something that happens.
I will say this: the only book I will be buying is the thing Stephanie Phillips is writing.
There you go. But I do want to point out, as Kyle has a very valid point, the drop of information was not handled well. So if you are the consumer out there and you want these books, it is very important to let your retailer know, because it is a hard thing as a retailer to juggle in your head. Many retailers are very talented, far more skilled than I am, and they're going to have it like it's nobody's problem. hopefully that is your retailer. But in case it isn't, always be respectful. Let them know, hey, Exceptional X-Men is about to become Expatriate X-Men. I would like to read that. Or if you want to take a break, let them know as well. Hey, when Exceptional X-Men becomes Expatriate X-Men, consider me an expatriate of the X-Men for those short few months. I'll be back afterwards. But
Well, and if your retailer is me, if your retailer is somebody like me, they might not order it out of spite. So make sure you tell them so they at least order it for you.
Yes, absolutely. All right. So, for those of you guys who love the prose of The Expanse or even the TV series on Amazon Prime, The Expanse is back with a new miniseries over at Boom Studios. It is A Little Death. I think this is going to be a fun one. If you have not, I hate to say I've never read The Expanse, but as a fan of the TV series, I love these comics. Kyle, have you read the books?
I have read the books. I've never seen the show.
Oh, interesting. So have you read the comics then?
I have not.
Okay.
That was why when I saw this coming down the line, I got very excited, and I have placed an order for the comics that have come out prior to this, so that I can go back and read up.
Awesome.
So I'm excited for that. The Expanse is a great book series. I don't know anything about the show. I've not seen it. I'll be honest, I get real finicky about shows based on books I like. I don't know if anybody's ever seen me talk about a Marvel movie. Anyway, so I want to read the comics. I think the thing about what I'm excited about for The Expanse, right, is that Boom Studios and Dark Horse are the two publishers I say do this best. Expansion of mythos beyond existing media. So to expand the Expanse mythos, which is a hard sentence to say, just because of the way it's worded, is something I'm excited to see them do, and something I'm excited to kind of read up on and read into.
Yeah. I mean, they've had some great creators on there, everyone from Karina Becco to Andy Diggle now. I think that it's solid. I would be very interested to get your take mid-September once you have caught up and you've had the chance to read a little bit of A Little Death before issue 2 hits FOC to get the take as the TV show fan. I'm loving it. I'm most curious to hear your take as the prose fan.
Yeah, we'll take a look. I mean, like I said, it's one of those things is that I think Amazon generally does a really good job at adapting novels and movies and things, or novels into movies and things. So I would imagine that the comic books will be another good adaptation of the show, like that it'll all mesh together really nice.
Yeah. And then I got to point out, with my love of Adam Hughes, the Ghost Compendium, that classic Dark Horse hero from the 90s, getting a thick collection for $60. I've been a huge fan of the compendiums, and I know my customers have been as well. Hopefully you guys have been partaking, because I know that I buy all these issues. I have every single issue of Ghost out there, and a good amount of them I probably got signed by Adam Hughes back in the day. But I will buy this compendium again, because $60 for that thick amount of reading, I can just loan out to friends to get them to read. It's great. And I mean, I can tell you, at least in my store, compendiums have been a huge seller, reviving interest. And I can say it with even Revival, the new TV series, of people checking out books that I loved that have since been out of print. So whether it's Walking Dead and Invincible, all the way to incredible DC, Image, and now Dark Horse titles, these thick $60 tomes that are bigger than some of the omnibuy out there are an amazing read. And 9 times out of 10, you're getting them for barely $1 a book, which is a steal of a deal in the modern economy.
It's true. Can we talk about the book that's right next to that on PRH? Ghostbusters Dead Man Chest, number 4.
Yeah, I believe that's the final issue of David Boer's sequel to the recent Ghostbuster films.
Well, this is his second sequel to the recent or third sequel to the recent Ghostbusters films, actually. David has been doing a really good job, and again, I mentioned Dark Horse, expanding mythos, right? He's done a really good job of continuing on where the recent Ghostbusters films have left off. the McKenna Grace and the kid from Stranger Things, Finn Wolfhard, Paul Rudd movies. This feels like those movies on paper. They're probably not going to do more. Just the way it's kind of looking with the individuals in the movie's careers and things like that. Probably not going to do another one. So the only way we're going to get more of this very fun new ghost-busting family of, Egon's family is through comic books. And so David Boer is doing a incredible job of expanding that story as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I have been really enjoying this one.
The dad jokes in them really make the books.
There it is. But the thing I am really enjoying right now is Godzilla. The Oscar award-winning, Eisner award-winning Godzilla. He's got his brand new Toho-approved ongoings in the Kaisei era with Godzilla, Escape the Dead Zone, and Starship Godzilla. Godzilla's fighting the Marvel Universe, destroying it, in fact, and he's fighting the Justice League and Kong. It is amazing all the things Godzilla is doing, and yet he still has time for a comic art collection, which has me excited because this is going to have some of the biggest names in art, including names like James Stokoe. So for $50, you're going to get an awesome, oversized hardcover collection of a ton of IDW art. Art Adams, Eric Powell, Inaki Miranda. This is going to be a really, really cool collection. And it looks like we're going to get it in various forms. You're not going to get simple cover reprints. It looks like you're going to get looks at pencils and inks and more, as well as details about it. So I am very excited about this. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that buy Godzilla just for the awesome covers. So this is your book. But also, man, Godzilla, this is the year of Godzilla. I feel I said that about 2024, but it is definitely the case in 2025. And I'm not going to complain if the year of Godzilla just becomes the decade of Godzilla for 2026 onward.
I was producing a show last night. We were talking about how Godzilla gets around more than the car from Grease. The car from the Beach Boys song. Like, Godzilla is everywhere. And I think if you're like me and you grew up in an era when you were young where there wasn't a lot of Godzilla where the lips matched the words, you should really enjoy the hell out of this before it goes away. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Well, and another emphasis on this is a $50 hardcover. That is a pricey book. Your average store may not stock it, or they'll stock one, maybe two copies. If there is a desire for this book, let your retailer know, as always, because that's our goal here. Our goal here is to make sure that you guys let your retailer know, so the books are guaranteed ordered for you, waiting behind the counter when you come to pick them up. The stores know the interest. It might lead them to order appropriately, so there's more copies available for other people to discover. But the hardest thing about being a retailer is sometimes being alone on your ordering and not knowing who's going to like what we should get. And the other opposite end is we get to talk with our customers. We get to hear firsthand on the battlefield front lines what is the big new thing. But often that conversation of water cooler comic talk is on release day, not on ordering day. So, let's change that. Talk about Final Order Cutoff in your comic shop. Talk with your friends who love sequential art. Talk with your retailers. Hopefully they are your friends. And, get those orders in before the orders are due. So next big one that I really want to talk about, I'm a big Nova fan. Not as big of a Nova fan as I am of a different character we'll be talking about a little bit later in this, but I love Nova. Nova has been an amazing character for decades, though he was defined for me in the Annihilation War under Keith Giffen. And as we now get to what I feel is the very strong successor of the Annihilation War, the Imperial War, Jonathan Hickman has me loving the Nova Corps once again, or the Nova Centurion. So Richard Rider is going to be fighting to keep the world mind that empowers him with the power of the Nova Corps around. And he needs credits for that. So now we have Nova for hire in this awesome one-shot by Jonathan Hickman and Jed MacKay, the two big J's at Marvel.
Yeah, no, this is a longer story than I think we have time for because our guest is waiting. But this is a big reason that I think CB over at Marvel thinks I'm a witch. They hadn't announced this yet, and I started talking to him at Comics Pro, and I go, so you're gonna, and I basically predicted the end of Imperial War without knowing they were announcing Imperial War. So that's 3 years in a row I've managed to pull that off to his face at Comics Pro. So I'm very excited to prove myself right and to prove that I'm a comic book prophet of some kind with this book. But it's been so good. Like all the Imperial War stuff that's come out has looked so good. And I haven't, I don't know that I'll read it as it releases. I may wait until I have all the issues and then sit down in one day and go issue by issue across the whole event. But super excited for this.
Awesome. Well, let's see if the Oracle of Comics is correct a little bit later. But for now, I think we bring in one of the key scribes of comics. I want to invite to the show the incredible Robert Venditti.
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me on.
Rob. How are you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. How are y'all?
Doing great. So you have worked for just about every major publisher over the era. You've done it all, from an early, beginning at Top Shelf to, the big two, but then you took a bit of a curve that some might argue would be a bad idea. And you seem to be holding strong on that with some amazing books on FOC, the big one being Survive.
Yes.
So
it sounds like you're giving me advice here, Matthias. Like, have I gone astray? Is that what you're suggesting?
No, I mean, you think bad idea is good?
I do think bad idea is good. I think bad idea is great. I still do some work for DC now and again. I really love working for Bad Idea. I've known them ever since we relaunched, a lot of the staff ever since we relaunched the Valiant Universe back in 2012. And, I guess I've been writing for Bad Idea now since about 2019. And so I've done a lot of projects for them. One of the things I really love about working for the company is their story first. The comics are always going to be what we all figure can make for the best story. It's not really limited by page count or format or any of those kinds of things. And Survive is a great example of that. That's a story idea that I started working on. And as we were developing the story, we realized it was going to go in some different directions than what we anticipated and what we thought was going to be a 3-issue miniseries ended up being 4. And instead of there being 22 pages an issue, they ended up being in the 30s and 40s, and it's just a great company to work for because Survive is a story about two men. One is a Russian sailor and the other is an American saboteur. They're both trapped aboard a Russian sub that's sinking to the bottom of the ocean. They're the only 2 survivors, and they basically have to go to war against each other in this 400-foot-long battlefield. And it's a different kind of story than I've written before, which I really like. It's got hints of espionage to it. It's a high action but very claustrophobic, as opposed to something that's big and widescreen in the way that something like Planet Death might be. And so with that, came an opportunity to not just tell a story about these 2 characters going against each other, but also make the environment sort of another antagonist for each of them. So they weren't just fighting each other; they're also fighting the environment as the weight of the ocean starts to crush the sub, and the things fill up with water, and they're both trying to get out. And so we were able to do a lot of things with the story in terms of the way it was drawn and the way it handled the storytelling that I don't know that I really could have done at another publisher that I would have had the space to do it. So super proud of the book. It's been a long time in the making, and really excited to finally have it come out.
Yeah, I mean, and I got to say, it feels very different from the other things you've done at Bad Idea. This is very different from Tankers and Hank Howard, as well as you said, Planet Death, which we'll come back to in a little bit. So what led to the idea of surviving a sinking submarine for a concept?
Oh, gosh. I don't know. It's always hard to say where ideas come from. Like it's probably the question that I get asked the most as a writer, whether I'm on a panel, I'm speaking somewhere, or what have you. And I've really tried to think about it when it happens. I'll have an idea for a story and I'll just stop and how did that just happen? Where did that idea come from? And even doing that, I really can't say. I think it's just every writer might be different, but for me, it's sort of this, stew of all the things that I've experienced in my life and done and whatnot. And for some reason, connections fire and you have an idea. And I know from my own life, growing up in South Florida near the beach, I was always around the ocean, was always very fascinated by the ocean. One of my older brothers was in the Navy. He was a navigator on a destroyer, and he would come home on shore leave. They would Port Everglades, and he would come home on shore leave. And he was a lot older than me, and he was just like a giant to me. He was just so strong and so tough and so cool. Everything. There was one time where we got to go see his destroyer and be on the boat a little bit, and so all those kind of things just really fascinated me. And I'm also a scuba diver, and so I don't do it much anymore living in Georgia, but when I was in Florida, I did. And it's a very different experience to be underwater and to be breathing and to not have to come up, and it's an entirely different environment. And you really realize, kind of in a reverse way, you're the fish out of water, like the ocean is in control and the animals down there are in control and the environment's in control, and you really have to respect it. That's me with scuba tanks on, knowing what I'm getting into, two guys trapped on a submarine, not preparing to be sunken on the bottom of the ocean floor. That's an environment where they have to learn pretty quickly that they're no longer in control and adapt to it. So that all just felt like a really good opportunity to do a story that, again, was up close and claustrophobic. Working with Doug Braithwaite on the story, who I was with on Armor Hunters when I was at Valiant. I've always wanted to work with him again since then. I wrote the story for him, with his art in mind, because he's so good at handling, facial expressions and up close character acting and things like that. And when you have something that's tight and claustrophobic like this is, the emotions of the characters really have to be borne out in the art, because a lot of times they're apart from each other and they're not really talking to each other and things like that. And so, I think all that just kind of mixed together,
Well, and I mean, this is both, a strong political thriller, or military, spy suspense thriller. But then it really has the vibe of horror in this. Like, this is a haunting, frightening thing. The idea of being at the bottom of the ocean in a submarine trying to survive, But the thing I love most is you have what seems like a lot of reality about submarines and Russian naval, concepts. Like, did you do a lot of research for this, or is this just all out of your head?
Yeah, I mean, some, like, I want to get certain facts right, like, how this Russian sub, how long it would be and what the whole crush depth is and things like that. I didn't sit down with a map of the sub and try to, move the characters through it or anything like that, But yeah, I mean, I tried to be factual about things, and there'll be a moment later on in the series where sort of rising out of the water, and having been a diver, you understand as you go down, you lose colors in Roy G. order. Like, the first thing you lose is the reds, and then the oranges, and then the yellows. And once you get down to a certain depth, everything's just kind of the same dull gray, because water has filtered out all the colors, But then as you rise again, those colors get reintroduced and the world becomes sort of more colorful again. When you see deep ocean photographs and things, they brought their own light source with them, And so elements like that are, come from personal experience, but also doing some research and reacquainting myself with them and things like that, and trying to bring them into the story and use the comic book format. How can we use art and color and all these different things to communicate story maybe in a way that hasn't been done too many times before.
Well, I have a question. I remember a very fun video where you went and drove tanks before tankers, which is like a bucket list item for me. So you're telling me you didn't get to go down in a submarine? Is that what I'm hearing?
I did not. I was going to go. Yeah, I was going to go to Disney World and go on the 20,000 Leagues in the Sea ride. which if anybody's ever been on it, you can actually see the water line in the window while you're supposed to be at the bottom of the ocean. You can see the water in the sky still, but sadly that ride no longer exists. So I wasn't able to do that,
Yeah, I can say I've been on actual submarines at that same level of Disneyland depth where they are breaching the water, and it's not something I would ever want to actually do or serve as a job.
Yeah, I mean, you really have to give it to the naval people that are out there on these boats. I can't imagine how claustrophobic and isolating it is, just sort of gliding under the water for months on end or what have you. So
yeah, and yet you give that haunting feel. So for people who are coming into this that know nothing about Survive, can you give the quick pitch of what these two men are doing and how they ended up in this situation?
Yeah, sure. Like I say, one's a Russian sailor. He's there because it's his duty and it's his mission, and that's what he does. The other guy is an American spy, and they both found themselves on the boat facing the very same sort of conflicts and life-threatening circumstances, but both having got there from opposite ends, and so they're also enemies. And so on top of them being at the bottom of the ocean, trapped aboard a submarine that's filled up with water, they also are battling each other. They're not even down there with somebody that they can kind of work together and figure things out. And so we watch the evolution of their relationship and how that changes their circumstances. And as I was saying earlier, what originally was going to be a 3-issue series ended up being 4, because as we told the story as we wanted to tell it, and it had resolved itself and come to a conclusion, we realized that there was actually an entire other third act waiting to be told with these two characters. And so we sat down and did a 4th issue that's longer than all the other issues and added an entire new element to the story that surprised even us. And I think as a creator, that's the most fun. You sit down, you make up stories all the time, and you're writing characters and things, but there are these moments when the characters kind of speak to you as opposed to you putting words in their mouth, or they surprise you in some way, or the story surprises you in a way and catches you off guard in something that you didn't even see coming, which is crazy because you're the one who's writing the story and thinking of it and all that kind of stuff. And so those are the moments that are the most fun as a creator. And the hope would be that the audience is as surprised by the twists as I was, because if it can surprise me and I'm the one writing it, then it can surprise pretty much anybody.
I think that's a good rule of thumb. If you can surprise the writer writing it, you can surprise the reader.
Hopefully.
And I believe we have some of Doug's artwork here. Kyle, is that the case? Can we show off any of that?
There we go. That's some. Yeah. Get some octopus action there.
Yeah.
Sienna Fallon, head of sales for Bad Idea. Any retailers watching, big octopus fan. Ask them about it if you ever see them in a convention. But yeah, these are some of the covers from the issues. We got Doug Braithwaite, we got Arturo Lozzi, we've got Jorge Fornes doing covers. So a lot of different things. Another good thing about working with Idea is the production value on the books. Heavy cardstock covers, spot varnish, beefed up issues, larger page counts, all those kinds of things. They really pack a lot of story and production value into each of the issues.
Yeah. Oh, and that, fire on a submarine, that's the last thing you want to see.
Yeah, and here's something you can see some of Doug's amazing character acting as you look there. The facial expressions and things. He's one of those artists that you almost don't even need to dialogue it, because he's able to carry it so well, which is extremely hard to do. And so really, really happy to have him on the book.
Yeah, I mean, the classic Marvel rule of thumb is you don't want a lot of talking heads, because that puts a lot of, work on the artist to try and, keep that. And yet Doug, nailing it there with so much emotion, that is only added by your incredible word bubbles.
I appreciate that.
But yeah. Now, of course, that is not the only thing you're doing currently at Bad Idea. You also have a big epic in the way of Planet Death. It had a
Yeah.
huge issue 0 drop with record sales on that. Issue number 1 came out back in July, and we can now say issue number 2 is lined up for release on November 5th, with FOC, for those paying attention, October 6th. Can you tell us a little bit about what to see or what to expect in the upcoming Planet Death?
Yeah, Planet is a story that I co-wrote with Derek Kolstad. He's the writer of the John Wick franchise of films, and it's drawn by Tomas Giarello. It was the first time I've been able to work with him, but again, an artist I'd wanted to work with for a really long time. Wrote the story specifically for him, not knowing if he would end up being the artist or not. And it's a story about a man named Corporal Scott who wakes up aboard a ship in deep space. He's part of a battalion of human soldiers that has to invade this alien world. And it's sort of like a D-Day story in space. You know, the first issue is this giant invasion of the alien planet. And by the end of it, all the things they face, Corporal Scott ends up being last man standing. And the mission is to destroy this weapon aliens have, and then he gets to go home. The battalion's all gone, so he's got to figure out a way to do this himself. So that's where we leave him at the end of issue 1. Moving into issue 2, he now goes on this journey by himself to try to accomplish this, and he's going to realize that there's a lot more than just the alien combatants that he has to worry about on this world. You know, he's got the natural circumstances. It's an ice planet, and so he's sealed inside his suit, can't get out of his suit. He freezes. He has to face, you know, like local wildlife and some other threats that we haven't seen before, as he is just compelled to keep going and to keep pushing forward and to keep going towards this mission and finish it so that he can get back to his wife and daughter.
Yeah. And again,
Tomas is inking himself for the first time in a long time on this series. And you can just see the black and white, how amazing it looks. A lot of times in the past, he's colored over his pencils, but here he's inking himself. And the time that he's putting into it really shows. And these are all oversized issues. Each one is 44 pages. The final issue is 55. And so, again, a ton of story. And really happy with how the first issue was received. You know, we've had a lot of positive response to it from readers, from retailers, and lots more where that came from.
Yeah, and I want to point out these final pages, when they release, will be in color. Bad Idea is giving us all a first look, so a huge shout out to the folks at Bad Idea for doing that. And again, just, you know, Robert, you know, you write some powerful stories, and then Bad Idea has just been giving you some crazy, brilliant artists to go and add to it, making these things a whole other level. I've been saying this about Bad Idea for years. Well, I don't always agree with, you know, how they put out their books or how they make them. Man, they put out some of the best books that you will find on stands when you can find them. So I love that we're at a point now where you don't have to worry. If you were a consumer that wants these books, you can go to any comic shop now. Any comic shop can get it. There is no longer that gate. This is something available everywhere. They are amazing. They are worth your time. It is not something you have to fight to get. You can just reach out to your local comic retailer and order it. And you got a fair amount of time for Planet Death number 2. FOC is October 6th, giving you about 2 months to knock that out. And then it releases November 5th. But that's not the only thing you have releasing November 5th, is it, Robert?
It is not. It could be. I'm not entirely sure. Survive number 3 might be on that day, but then also it's the launch of a new series called Ordained, which is another miniseries I'm doing with Bad Idea. And this is a story I'm doing with Trevor Hairsine on art, Dave Stewart on colors. It's a story about a priest who goes to a hospital at the request of a patient to give last rites. When he goes and sees the patient, he finds out the patient is actually a dying elderly Irish gangster, head of the Irish mob. So he takes his confession, in which the gangster tells him all the things he's done in his life, absolves the gangster of his sins, and leaves. But the gangster ends up making a miraculous recovery. He's no longer going to die, he's going to live now. So he sends his men to go kill the priest, because the priest is the one who knows about all the crimes. But it turns out the priest wasn't always a priest. He's ex-special forces who found his faith in the midst of combat, took a vow to never kill again, became a priest, and now he has to go up against the Irish Mafia without killing of them, while they're all just very hard trying to kill him. And so it's a story about redemption, forgiveness, all these kinds of things. Really, really excited about it. Derek Kolstad, actually, who I wrote Planet Death with, he already attached to write the screenplay adaptation of Ordained. And there's already an actor attached, and we're out with some directors right now. And so things are really moving along on that front too. So, I think if you look at the three stories, Planet Death, Survive, and Ordained, all very different. One is sort of wide scale sci-fi war action, and Survive is very sort of up close and personal espionage, and Ordained is a street level crime story, and I always try to work on different things to challenge myself with different types of stories and different formats. But also, I think it speaks to Idea as a publisher and the way that they sort of have this breadth of content that they'll put out. You look at something like Cul-de-sac that just came out this week, which I was able to read the other day and just absolutely loved. It's Mike Carey writing it and Jonathan Wayshak drawing it, and it's printed on newsprint, and Jonathan Wayshak painted everything on the actual boards with like oil painting and things. And so on the newsprint, it really kind of captures that feel and just the intentional choices the company makes and the stories they put out and the way they present them. I don't know that I could do the same slate of books someplace else.
I mean, again, it's Bad Idea really shines on the stands. It is one of those things that, I mean, I've told you this directly, Robert. I really hope more people open these books up and read them. It's got a lot of popularity of becoming big collector's items. There's massive aftermarket value on a lot of it. But these are the books you want to open up and read cover to cover. They are so amazing. And wow, Ordained looks insane, because I believe this is one of the first places that that this has been announced. This is news to me on some of it. The film, already seemed to be underway. So thank you on that.
Maybe Robert. I'm not supposed to say it. I don't know.
Well, we thank you for sharing it with us. So all the more reason. That one also has an FOC of October 6th. So you have a good amount of time to let your retailer know, so that way they can have it on shelves and hopefully set aside for you on November 5th alongside Planet Death 2 and perhaps the next issue of Survive.
Yeah, it'll be out in November, but I can't say which week specifically. Yeah, I don't know yet. Yeah,
but man,
it's all
Robert,
done. Everything's already drawn and colored. I just don't know where it's in the schedule.
Yeah. So definitely something to let your retailer know. I'm pretty sure you can go to your retailer and just say, I need everything that Robert writes. All those Bad Idea books sound like a good idea to me. Set them aside for me.
Sounds like a great strategy.
Well, I want to thank you so much for joining us, Robert. I mean, all three of these books look phenomenal. I mean, I can tell you right offhand, Planet Death is phenomenal. I had the advantage of reading Survived. You're going to want to get that on order before Monday, because that is a powerhouse of a read that is so emotionally charged. And I am now super excited for Ordained, and I definitely want to read it before it's on the big screen. Robert, if anybody wants to find you and discover what other amazing projects you have coming up, where can we find you online?
Yeah, I'm on X and also Instagram, just at Robert Venditti, just like my name is spelled. And also, I'll be at Baltimore Comic-Con later this year. I may have some other convention announcements coming up as well, but I tend to I always like seeing people come out to the shows. So yeah, if anybody wants to know anything, you can just give me a shout out there.
All right. So remember, on X and Instagram, Robert Venditti. Thank you so much for everything. Like, I'm still reeling from the Ordained announcements here. That is super awesome. So get your orders in for Survive. FOC is this Monday, August 11th. And then, of course, let your local retailer know that you want Planet Death before FOC on October 6th, alongside Ordained, which also has an FOC on October 6th. Both of those next issues release on November 5th. And we'll see you at Baltimore.
It. Yeah, definitely. And I appreciate again you having me on, and it was good talking to you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. All right, I think we're going to go to a quick commercial break, Kyle, unless there's something you want to throw out there before we return to PRH.
Well, I was going to say we don't necessarily need to take a commercial break. I will just do a live read right now for stuff we have coming up today on the EXP. Tonight at 7, Nick Barucci's art show. He is selling All-Star Batman #3. That's John Romita Jr. and Danny Mickey art, page by page. The entire book will be for sale tonight at 7 here on the EXP. And then Nancy is doing a vintage heavy show tonight on Friday Night Live here on the Experience. Also, be on the lookout. We've got a couple of emails coming out via the EXP marketing or via the EXP email list where we are going to be sharing with you some very important information. So be on the lookout for that in the next, say, 36 hours. But we have some big announcements coming from the EXP. So just make sure you subscribe to our email list. Make sure you're following us on social media and all of that kind of stuff to get that information. So rather than have to play a commercial that everybody's seen, let's just get back to looking at comic books.
All right. So continuing on with PRH, I got to talk about this awesome new boom book, The Last Day of H.P. Lovecraft. Reprinting a European book, and for the first time in English. I love that this is going to be done in single issue form. Well, I will always appreciate European straight-to-graphic novel, oversized formats. This is a nice, easy way for American readers to dive into this very powerful and haunting book that gives us the very last days of H.P. Lovecraft, where the man goes from a legendary author to a mythological figure. This is based off the hit French graphic novel by Romuald Giolivo and Jacob Rebelka. I am probably butchering those names.
Yeah, it's just Rebelka. There's no extra accent on that one.
Darn. That's right.
Well, the only reason I know is I've been a big fan of him for a long time, and I asked once. I actually imported this book when it was only available in Italy and the UK a few years back as the oversized thick edition because I fell in love with the art. A friend of mine who is a retailer in Europe sent me the picture and I went, no, send it to me. So I've been a fan of this book since before anybody knew what it was. My hipster is coming out. I'm sorry. But this, guys, I cannot speak highly enough of this book, especially if you're into Lovecraftian horror, especially if you're into sort of that taking a real life person, an author, and throwing them into their fictitious world. This is a great example of that. Just phenomenal book, and so excited to have it come out in individual issues in the US from a major publisher like Boom.
Yeah, no, I am hyped, and it's not the only European comic that we'll be talking about today. It's the really fun thing.
It's true.
But other big one I have to talk about, Marvel Zombies, with the TV show on the way. I believe it's hitting Disney Plus this fall. Of course, we have to bring Marvel Zombies back in a whole new way. Ethan Parker and Griffin Sheridan are going to give us a red band, meaning it's a max, mature, so dark it has to be polybagged on the shelves of your comic shop. Marvel Zombies Tale. And Marvel Zombies has never been liked. From Robert Kirkman writing it through Frank Thierry, like, this is one of those books that never really, I felt, pulled punches. So what happens when it's fully unleashed and allowed to be rated R? I am beyond excited to see this. I am curious how it will tie in with the upcoming animated. Obviously, you can see the animation cover right there with Thanos zombie and his Infinity Gauntlet. But a lot of great cover options there. For me, it will be the Scott Koblish retro that I have to get. But I'm excited. It's been a while since I've been excited for more Marvel Zombies, but this might pull me in. Then we have a lot of great ones. One World Under Doom continuing on as we are in the third act of this epic of Latvian control. but one I need to spotlight because I feel this is the one getting the least attention. Well, it deserves more. Is Benjamin Percy's Red Hulk. This is going to be a One World Under Doom crossover, and it's got a bit of a crossover with some additional heroes in there. But with Thunderbolt Ross still rocking the Red Hulk, we might have the Captain America 4 movie long since in the rearview mirror. Red Hulk is surprisingly kicking butt issue after issue. And I really feel this is getting underordered and getting nowhere near the attention it deserves. So if you want something, well, Philip Kennedy Johnson's Hulk is big and getting bigger. If you want more of like a classic beat 'em up Hulk, Red Hulk is where it's at. Meanwhile, in the very opposite strain, for those who like a little bit of mature comedy, who are missing Star Trek Lower Decks on Paramount Plus, it is still alive and well in comic form. And if you haven't been reading the comic, Ryan North, the same Ryan North who's currently doing Fantastic Four, brought us the first arc of the current ongoing Star Trek Lower Decks comics. Our heroes are still lower deckers, and yet they are amazing. I love this book. If you have ever enjoyed any episode of Lower Decks, I recommend grabbing it, catching up, so you can jump on to Sheridan's current run. But this is just great and humorous fun. I mean, Kyle, you have to be a Lower Decks fan, right?
Wars over Trek, Battle Galactica over both. In terms of star-based things. And Stargate is up there somewhere. I have never been a Trekker. And I'm not a Paramount Plus subscriber, so I've not watched it. That said, I will say this: the work that is being done by IDW with Star Trek is some of the most interesting stuff that's coming out from that sort of spacey, era, spacey thing. Like I was reading about The Last Starship, which is coming out later. That because there's a thing that we have to talk about very soon, where we'll be ordering The Last Starship. They're doing a great job, and it almost makes me want to like Star Trek.
I can honestly say Lower Decks is going to be the thing that drags you in. It'll be your gateway Star Trek. Because
all right,
if you've ever liked any adult humor cartoon from Rick and Morty to Simpsons to South Park, this has that delightful form of mature humor while still being wonderfully planted in Star Trek in every amazing way. And it will be the thing that makes you want to learn more about Vulcans and Klingons and all
Kardashians.
Well, maybe without the H.
Oh, see, I didn't know the difference.
Yes. But no, Star Trek Lower Decks, absolutely amazing. I highly recommend it. And yes, we'll have to bring on some special guests when we start talking about those others. But Heather Antos, the editor of the group editor of all those amazing Star Trek books over at IDW, is just making them amazing. I'm not going to disagree with you. I've always been a Battlestar Galactica and Star Wars fanatic, but the comics and Lower Decks cartoon have made my Star Trek love increase immensely. And this is worth paying attention to.
If you want to sell me on Star Trek and you can get me Whoopi Goldberg or LeVar Burton to come on and talk about Star, I'll take it. Or Shatner or Patrick Stewart. But it's going to take someone of that level to get me to be like, okay, I will. I'm kidding. I will, believe it or not, I'm getting Paramount Plus for free from my cable company very soon. So I will definitely be checking it out on your recommendation.
And then grab the trade paperback because you'll want more. All right.
Sounds good.
Since you place Wars above Trek, it's actually after Trek in the alphabet. Nevertheless, Star Wars Jedi Knight #7. I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fanatic. You can probably see it in the background, though. I did manage to get my Trek and my Wars next to each other in my background items. Nothing like a chained Moopsie from Lower Decks. But as a big Star Wars fanatic, I really want to emphasize how much I am loving Mark Guggenheim's Star Wars Jedi Knights, taking place around the prequel trilogy. This has been phenomenal stuff. And look, Ayla Sakura, Mace Windu, you cannot go wrong. I love that Mace Windu is in two things right now. We have him in Star Wars Hyperspace Stories over at Dark Horse with George Mann's Tides of Terror, and we have him in Marvel with Jedi Knights and Mark Guggenheim. More Mace Windu is really what everyone needs in their life.
Correct.
Purple lightsabers.
And for me, like on this one, it's the Chris Sprouse cover.
Yes.
The kind of the classic looking, I don't know. To me, I always call it Amigo style with the white border around the picture, you know, kind of looking cover. But that cover is so gorgeous. And again, I think Mark Guggenheim is doing some of the best work of his illustrious career right now with Star Wars.
Yeah. And I mean, I hate to say there are too many amazing covers. I have been doing this since issue 1, and it seems like I might be doing this the entire series where I'm buying multiple covers. Something you should always talk to your retailer about if you want to do, so that way that they can get all the covers you want. Because I have been loving these Jedi lightsaber covers that Torrin Clark's been doing. Torrin, you know, has been doing amazing work. He'll actually have a cover that is in the top 10, and it's not the lightsaber cover. But, you know, anytime we get a Miri Allen on a comic, I get a little excited.
Yeah.
So another big one, giving us some extreme 90s nostalgia, because let's face it, 90s nostalgia has been the theme of 2025. You know, whether it's been Gargoyles or Captain Planet. I mean, I guess we've been going to the 80s with all of our Transformers, G.I. Joe, and Silverhawks. But now the Street Sharks are back. And it has been ages. Stephanie Williams coming to take on that classic 90s cartoon. I admit, I had the toys, and I was probably far too mature to have the toys when they were released of Street Sharks. But take a bite out of that street of crime. All right, Kyle, you're a Street Sharks fan, right?
I am a big Street Sharks fan. I'm very excited for this book. I don't know how many people are going to feel the way I feel about Street Sharks. Like, so anybody who watches the experience knows it's animals doing people things, and then kind of obscure, like, Fantagraphic style books. And then, you know, like noir pulpy stuff like the like Ordained, like we were talking about. So Street Sharks scratches so many of the itches of my childhood, of animals doing people things, of killer art, so many great covers. And the interior art on this book is Ariel Medel, who I think is going, I haven't seen the inside pages. If somebody from IDW wants to send me a PDF. Anyway, I haven't seen the inside pages, but just the covers and Ariel Medel's art, when you look it up, is going to be so perfect for this book that I think it's going to sell a whole new generation on something that really I don't know would resonate with today's kids if it wasn't for Street Sharks. So, big excited for that.
Yeah, that one should be fun. I do love the 1-in-25 ratio variant that is a nice subtle nod to Giant Size X-Men #1 while still having the Street Shark classic of breaking through the brick wall.
Well, and here's the thing, and if you're out there listening, Robert Kirkman, we need Beast Wars back. So we have Street Sharks, Biker Mice from Mars, Beast Wars, and Killer Turtles all at the same time. I'm just saying.
90s nostalgia.
And Speed Racer.
Oh, we got Speed Racer, yeah.
I know. So we can have them all at the same time. People in their late 30s to mid 40s, or maybe even early 50s, will lose their damn minds. I'm just throwing it out there if you guys want to make some money.
There you go. Well, speaking of that 80s nostalgia brought to life, in my opinion, one of the heroes of the 80s, particularly 1989, was Casey Jones. And finally getting a new ongoing series. We talked to Alex Packnadell about 3 weeks ago, I want to say 3 or 4 weeks ago.
A little longer than that, but yeah.
Yeah, and man, I have been hyped waiting for this. This is going to be awesome. I mean, the Goongala man himself with his hockey sticks and baseball bats of beatery coming back to Mutant City. This is going to be awesome. Look at him just taking on the Foot Clan right there.
Yeah, and the thing about Casey Jones, like, that I'm excited for him to have his own story for the first time in a long time is this is another one of those characters that if you're like, I like the Turtles, but I don't know a lot about, I like the idea of the Turtles, but I don't know a lot about the extended universe. And you maybe tried Armageddon game and were a little bit turned off. And then it's like the Joel Jones stuff is cool, but like you're not really connecting to that. This is going to be the book for you. Because this, I feel like, is going to get back to what the Turtles were for those of us who grew up during Turtle Mania.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I am beyond excited for Shredder. I think Shredder is going to be my favorite of the three main Turtles titles. But it's crazy to say that with the legendary Gene Luen Yang taking over after Jason Aaron, that should have me even more excited, and it does. I am beyond excited for Casey Jones and Shredder. Like, this is going to be fun stuff.
If we could get an April O'Neil solo story for a while, like, I would be willing to just, like, buy them all. Just throwing that out there, IDW. You know. If you hear this, call me. You have my number. Yeah.
All right. Meanwhile, over at the Marvel Universe, the brand new Ultimate title, as it looks like the Ultimate Universe could be coming to an end as the maker prepares to exit from his 24-month isolation. We still have one brand new title from writer of the Ultimates, Dennis Camp. This has a really crazy, combination, including Taboo of what band was Taboo with?
Black Eyed Peas.
Black Eyed Peas, that legendary band. He's once again bringing a Native American into comics. You can see the maker suffering beneath Hawkeye's actions in the background of this cover. But this is going to be a fun new miniseries I'm really excited for. I love the last time we had an Ultimate Hawkeye miniseries. I want to say Hickman wrote that about 15 years ago. But this new Ultimate Hawkeye, 100%, I am all in.
Yeah, Taboo tends to bring in his own their own Native American culture into the writing they do at Marvel. Like they've done some Marvel Voices kind of stuff previously. So to take Hawkeye and add that culture, that part of the culture in, is very interesting and is a very kind of cool concept. I do want to point out that there is a cover by, this is one of those names I'm not even going to try and pronounce. EJI. Yeah, Edgy Curry. Yeah, that's a local comic shop day exclusive that you may want to reach out to your local comic shop and be like, hey, are you doing local comic shop day? Are you participating? Are you going to have an event? Are you going to do something? Can I make sure I get that book? And can you make sure you contact Kyle at The Experience about it? Anyway,
yeah.
I'm not dropping hints or anything. But no, I really like the Ijikuri cover for local comic shop day. But there's also a cover that we have in our top 10 that had I seen before would have been the one I put on my order.
Well, there's still time.
It's true. But I already have 4 of these covers coming. So,
well, I'm going to be doing the same with Ultimate Spider-Man Incursion 4. I cannot lie. I'm a huge fan of Magic. And on top of that, Miles. So having multiple covers that feature Magic and Miles is great. Even the Adam Polina cover, has my absolute attention. This is a taste of the Ultimate Universe all across the board. And I want to know what happens in this where Miles is going to be rocking Ilyana Rasputin's various swords. Because, depending on the cover, he's holding different blades. But all sorts of amazing things. We get a lot of great Ultimate titles in there, including Ultimate X-Men. The very interesting thing is at the same time we're doing this modern Hickman era Ultimate, we're going back to the original Ultimate universe with the omnibus of Robert Kirkman's run of Ultimate X-Men. And as a fanboy at the time that was coming out, I wrote a letter, saying, look, I could care less about Walking Dead or Invincible. Keep Robert Kirkman on Ultimate X-Men. Clearly no one listened to that letter, and I'm thankful in the long run.
Probably right. Yeah.
Yeah. But, man, that was an epic run of Ultimate X-Men. So Omnibus right there with a superstar Michael Turner cover. That's great.
Well,
Here's
and right
what
before that on the
Yeah.
website is a book that is an incentive, but I have reached out to my local comic shop to make sure I can get the incentive. I'm not reading Ultimate Wolverine, but that Maria Wolf Ultimate Wolverine cover just speaks to me. So, just one of the things to kind of pay attention to in terms of availability of interesting new covers.
Yeah, Maria Wolf is incredibly blowing up. I had the honor of finally meeting her at San Diego Comic-Con this year. Absolute sweetheart. I mean, just such an enthusiastic artist that loves what she does. Um, I thought not only is she beyond talented, but she just gives fans the time of day and is as excited as we are about the things she gets to work on. So definitely, I mean, as if her skill wasn't something to pay attention to before. Like, I love that spirit in this industry that it just has me locking on to anything Maria Wolf does. So
Yep.
here's the big one I got to talk about. I'm a huge Iron Fist fan. I don't know if you knew that, Kyle. Huge Iron Fist fan. So back in the 50th anniversary of Iron Fist, Danny Rand, the big Iron Fist, died. Or so we thought. At the very end of that issue, a hand did escape from the grave. And it seems like Danny is not dead yet, as we get the new Undead Iron Fist. Done by Jason Liu. This is obviously our resurrection of Danny Rand. I am so happy to have Rand back. Well, I have loved Swordmaster as Iron Fist. Well, I have loved every version of Iron Fist and the long history that we gained through Matt Fraction and Ed Brubaker's Immortal Iron Fist and the Immortal Weapons. Danny Rand back as the Undead Iron Fist. Because for those who are not familiar, going back to that Immortal Iron Fist run, we discovered that every Iron Fist tends to die at the age of 33. And Danny fought back the beast that had killed all these Iron Fists. And he survived to the ripe old age of 34. Ooh, I hope to be 34 one day. But unfortunately did not last long on that. Now we're getting the true 34th year of Danny Rand back to life as the Iron Fist and dealing with, I want to say it was Chin Li, the demon that, took him. So this will be really fun. I love how much this is tied to the lore of the Immortal Iron Fist. It references it with Can You Truly Kill an Immortal Iron Fist? But as a longtime Iron Fist fan, this is a must read. For some reason, I'm showing you the 1 in 25 variant. I apologize. I should be showing off other covers.
I mean, the A cover of this book is Will Portasio.
Yes.
Like, oh, you're going to just go get one of the most legendary cover artists ever to do your A cover? All right, I'm going to pay attention to your book.
Yeah.
I'm not even that big of an Iron Fist fan, but putting Wills on the cover and putting this creative team together for the interiors really, really has me interested in something that I might not otherwise buy. And just as another reason to make sure you pay attention to FOC, I would have just seen Iron Fist, meh. But because I'm looking at FOC, because I'm going through and checking what's coming out every week to let my shop know, I saw that this is Jason Liu and Fran Gallen with Will Portasio on the cover and went, oh, well, that's appealing. And so I ordered one.
Yeah. No, I am very, very excited for this one. I hope you guys are too. I hope this gets amazing, sales. But, if it's something you want, definitely let your local comic shop know. Now, we've gone through the majority of all the PRH fun. As always, you can see everything at prhcomics.com. I think it's time we switch over and see what DC, Image, Oni, and others are doing at Lunar. Shall we?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
All right. So once again, you're going to go to lunardistribution.com. You'll meet a website like this. Scroll on down to upcoming FOC. Make sure you're on the right day. And you will see all the amazing books as the absolute titles continue. In fact, if you want that glow-in-the-dark Absolute Batman 12, remember, foil and glow-in-the-dark sometimes take a little bit more lead time for production, so they'll be on FOC early. And tell me you don't want a glow-in-the-dark cover of Absolute Batman, one of the hottest-selling books currently on stands. So that is a definite let your local retailer know if you want that so you can get one. A lot of great absolute titles on FOC as Green Lantern and Superman continue onward. Adventure Time hits its second story arc over at Oni with this new relaunch. A lot of great covers there. Nick Wynn is just doing an amazing job with this. It feels like watching new episodes of Adventure Time. And while we know there will eventually be new episodes of Adventure Time, why wait when we can enjoy it right now? Finn and Jake, always good. Here's a big one. Philip Kennedy Johnson. He's done a ton of incredible Superman and Action Comics tales, and he is back with Scott Golewski. More Superman with Adventures of Superman, the Book of L, a maxi 12-issue series that is going to give us new tales of Superman by this powerhouse team. I have loved everything they've been doing so far. If you liked any of it, this is your chance. I got a little worried when he got kicked off Action Comics. Clearly, there was a greater purpose for that.
Yeah, I was with you when Phil left Action Comics. I stopped buying Action Comics.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that they were like, no, we're taking you off of Action Comics to put you on this other thing that is like, we're going to let you build. Oh, okay. Sold.
Yeah. And a lot of great covers available on this one, all very straightforward Superman ones, but I really want to show off that Dan Mora, not only because Dan Mora is amazing, but look at the cast there. Ooh, what could be said about that? Definitely a cover worth paying attention to. But yes, I'm not going to go too much into this. It's already the summer Superman. You guys came out of the film back in July, so you are on that hype. Let's hope that train continues into September with the Book of L. A very interesting new take on artificial intelligence and modern romance comes from Maria Lovett, who is always a master of doing dark, mature tales. This is going to be a brand new 4-issue miniseries about a young woman who finds love in an artificial human, a robot, android of sorts that you're able to find via an app. However, what happens, as I constantly scream, when the AI goes wrong, as this loving, doting partner suddenly becomes a creepy android stalker.
9.5 weeks meets Terminator.
Yep, 9.5 meets Terminator. What a pairing, right?
My brain is actively getting warmer trying to process that.
Yeah. I always love dystopian concepts that are far too frightfully possible. And this is exactly the fear of the future I don't want to live in. So I hope you guys all read this and then just don't download this app. Don't buy into, those Android, partners in the future.
Well, and you're hearing about people are turning to ChatGPT to combat loneliness. And so it's a slippery slope.
Yeah. ChatGPT, as I said earlier this week, is the gateway to the AI overlords. I'm just going to always
AI is the devil.
I'll be a Luddite.
Absolutely. AI is the devil. All right.
Yeah. All sorts of fun there. I know you're a big Assorted Crises fan. Another incredible book from Dennis Camp. The first trade paperback out now. So wonderful to catch up. I mean, you were a fan of that one, right, Kyle?
I did. I like Dennis Camp. I've liked Dennis Camp since he was writing at Valiant. So I've really liked Dennis Camp's style for a long time. So Assorted Crisis Events, as kind of an Image creator-owned, like, he can kind of do what he wants. I was very excited for, and this has proved to live up to it. There are 2 editions of this. There's the Eric Zawardsky direct market edition, and then there's the regular, which is just the number 1 cover for the trade. So this is one that you'll want to pick up if you haven't read it. It is a unique take. It is a unique story. It is something that is very different from a lot of what we're seeing out there.
Indeed. And a lot of great continuing series. Man, I love that Sawi cover on Batgirl. I wasn't going to talk about Batgirl, but just take in that cover. It's so beautiful. But one I want to point out, it is now quickly becoming less affordable to own that first appearance of Jason Todd as the Red Hood in Batman 635. But Red Hood is about to get his own ongoing series. He is popping up everywhere in webtoons and comics. Everyone seems to love Jason Todd a hell of a lot more than they did back in the 1980s when we voted to kill him off. So if you want a cool way to get that issue, or like me, you already own the issue and you want a cool alternate cover, Batman 635 Facsimile has an actual facsimile, and then the things that everyone misunderstands and calls a facsimile, but with new covers, like our wonderful Jason Gayer action figure cover that I have to get, the foil of the original Matt Wagner, and a blank so you can have Red Hood drawn however you want. I'm going to have a crowbar hit in on the head. You can also see some of the upcoming Batman Day releases. Keep in mind, some will be given out for free at your local comic shop. Some will come with a price tag. There are a lot of options. Reach out to your local shop to see if they're participating in Batman Day, what they'll be getting. Not everything is revealed here, but you can always talk to them and find out what your local shop's plans are for Batman Day, what they'll be having, what they might give out for free, what might have a price behind it. There is definitely some expensive foil things that are very, very cool to keep in mind on. Birds of Prey hits its big third year start with issue 25. Kelly Thompson kicking butt on this amazing book. We'll talk a little bit more about that in the top 10. Blade Runner continues on with Black Lotus. Nancy is going to be kicking butt as she brings our protagonist to Las Vegas. Nancy Collins just knows what she's doing with this universe. It's been getting better and better over at Titan. You know, that's where you really need is some Blade Runner in Las Vegas.
If you say so.
Yeah. I got to spotlight Cal Exit because there is film and television on the way. I want to say it's the director of John Wick who is going to be doing the Cal Exit film. So we have a second printing of issue number 1 and issue number 2 on FOC at the same time, so you can catch up on the Battle of Universal City. For those of you who are not native to California, who haven't went and been a tourist yet in Los Angeles, Universal City is the outdoor mall attached to Universal Studios. It is a crazy place to shop. It has all sorts of amazing, theme park rides and all that fun stuff. So for a battle as California exits the United States, talk about an iconically visual place to do it. And we'll talk more about that.
Well, and like the weird Elmo that's always there and some of those costumed characters that are always there being on the front lines is interesting. But I got to say this. I have been following Black Mask Studios since it was like two dudes in a garage, right? Like when they first sort of hit the scene, they had books that like Young Terrorists that were just so interesting and so unique that I've been a big fan for a long time. And to see them having success with Cal Exit and finally getting some multimedia stuff going, this is a big for the little guys in comic books. Like, so just be supporting that publisher because I think they're doing some really good and really important work.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I want to say 15 to 18 years ago when God Killers was coming out and they had their first animated film. I was really excited and I thought it was going to be a huge thing, and it didn't take off to the degree that I wished it would have, and it should have. But I'm very excited for Cal Exit, and I mean it's topical in a couple different ways. So who knows? Going away from topical and back to nostalgia, Captain Planet, always great, some amazing covers. I am always a fan of the Jay Lee. I mean, Jay Lee just does it all at Dynamite, and I love it all from Jay Lee at Dynamite. Always worth, a little bit of attention from Jay and his significant other, June.
I really dig the Ben Oliver covers on these.
Yes.
Those are very fun. I didn't love the first number 1 covers with especially the way Mark Spears kind of rendered the beard. But I think Ben Oliver has done a great job of kind of taking that idea and making it more traditionally what we think of when we think of Captain Planet.
Yeah. So here's a fun one you might have missed if you didn't grab the Image anthology for the anniversary a few years ago. Closer. Kieran Gillen, Steve Lieber, two very great creators who know how to do emotion on a grounded level, but often go notably bigger. This was originally printed in issues 7 through 9 of the Image anthology a few years ago. I want to say 4 years ago at this point. But it is getting collected as a one-shot, so you can read it in one sitting. And if you missed it, it's worth reading. That entire run of Image anthology had some absolutely brilliant stories. You had incredible I Hate Fairyland, Walking Dead alternate universe stuff, Invincible, Geiger. A lot of that stuff was amazing, and it was very easy to miss. And I don't believe it was ever collected as an anthology, so it is great to see options like this so we can read these. And if you never read it, a great way to grab it.
Yep. And real quick, right before that on the list, there is Cheetah and Cheshire Rob the Justice League. I think a lot of people slept on issue 1 of that book. That book was a lot of fun.
Number 1 just hit this week, so
Yep.
if you slept on it, you still have time to go in your local comic shop and grab it.
That book was a lot of fun. And just, I want to see in the comments, who do you think they're going to add to their crew? They said they need to put a crew together. Who do you think they're going to add to their crew? And they basically have said, not the Joker. So do we have to add Catwoman to keep with the theme? Or do we go off of theme? Who do you think, chat, they're going to add to their crew?
Yeah. But yeah, no, I love it. This is the powerhouse team, Greg Rucka and Nicholas Scott, that have worked on many things together, including Wonder Woman Year 1 in the start of the Rebirth era. Greg, always a talented writer. He's the man who brought us Old Guard with the new film now on Netflix. I'm just excited to watch this continue to develop. Issue 1 was great. It's actually just sitting off camera right now. I recently got to read it last night. So fun stuff. And then with Red Sonja hitting theaters next Wednesday, I got my ticket for Red Sonja on the 13th. I don't know if you managed to get yours yet, Kyle, but I am beyond hyped. So, well, we have Hycarnia, now we have Hyboria with Conan, partner and lesser known male equivalent to Red Sonja, we'll say. He is getting all sorts of amazing paraphernalia recently as his comics are blowing up. You can now get more T-shirts and pins at your local comic shop.
The sticker pack?
Yeah.
Guys, that's Barry Windsor Smith art on stickers.
Yeah.
Like the legend, the maybe the reason Red Sonja and Conan look the way they look, Barry Windsor Smith, right there. So,
I want to say that's John Cassidy who did this.
That is John Cassidy.
Yeah, the late great John Cassidy. You can have on a shirt now.
He'll be gone a year next month.
Oh my God, has it been that long now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. One thing, I have this framed in my living room, the Hyborian age map. I think this is really, really cool. This is I think originally offered at San Diego Comic-Con. Now they have a generic map you can buy. A lot of these were available through Diamond and unfortunately not fulfilled through Diamond with everything going on there. So you can grab it now through Lunar at your local comic shop to get on that Conan train as we prepare for the Scourge of the Serpent that will cross over in the Savage Conan magazine and the main Conan comic. Of course, once again, we will be talking about this greater detail next week with the main covers. But if you want that foil cover or the glow in the dark, and I love the difference. Foil, you get King Conan right there. Glow in the dark. Ooh, look at that serpentine twist. So, yes, I will be dropping a lot of money on Conan covers, but deservedly so.
There is an Ivan Gill cover that will be a local comic shop day exclusive that stores will have to be FOCing very soon. So, again, reach out to your comic shop and be like, are you doing local comic shop day? Maybe you oughta.
Kyle is very, very on the nose in his hints with local comic shop day. I guess there might be some big news at some point coming from Kyle. I don't know. We'll just have to keep an eye on Kyle and the EXP to discover more.
Yeah, no, I'm not at all being heavy-handed with this today at all. No, not at all.
Yeah. As Robert was talking about earlier when we were interviewing him, Cul-de-sac #1 hit stands this past week. Issue 2 on FOC now. Look at that hauntingly twisted Wayshak cover. Jonathan Wayshak doing the incredible interiors on there as well as that cover. So they look just as effed up inside. And it is amazing. It is dark. Oh, it is dark. I'm not going to lie. It is not for everyone, but it is awesome. And then I love in the opposite end, Tony
Yeah.
Fleek's amazing mirror covers. These are great. If you haven't already grabbed number 1, grab Tony's cover. Hold it, take it out of the bag and board, hold it up to a mirror, and see the twisted reveal there. It is awesome.
So last night on the Geek Chat here on the Experience, Rich from Comic Book Beardies, used to be Whatever Comics, read Cul-de-sac #1 for review, and the last he knew were kind of the bad things that used to be associated with Bad Idea, the things that had made retailers grumpy in the past. And to listen to him talk about Cul-de-sac and how it totally turned his opinion on the entire publisher was really nice to hear, because I've been a Bad Idea fan since the outset. I know why retailers maybe had some struggles previous, but now that they're, a better idea, to see people converting over to realizing how good the books are is kind of great. So Cul-de-sac is doing great. It's a great take on vampires, even if it is a little bit, that first issue is a little bit nightmare inducing.
Yeah, I mean, so I will speak on that. And, this is, horribly timed because we had a writer for Bad Idea as a guest. I'm sure we have some Bad Idea people in the audience, both fans and, administrative. Yeah, I mean, I was one of the first people Dinesh talked to. I mean, hardly the first, but, in that early group, about Bad Idea, I was all in, and I didn't like the games initially. I quit in anger. Dinesh will tell you in a heartbeat, I quit in anger. I was upset. And even through all that, not liking what they did initially, every one of those books were some of the best comics that came out of the early 2020s. Some of the best stories, best artwork, best quality. I just didn't like the gates they made us know. I love that, I'm going to give a lot of credit to Sienna, the salesperson at Bad Idea, that this is easily accessible now. Comic shops can order it the same way they can anything. So there's no reason not to get there. If you had any stigma on Bad Idea, get over it, because you would be missing out on some of the best comics available. And now there is absolute availability on these. These are some of the best stories, best art. Even the gimmicks are cool now that they're accessible. Like Cursed Mirror comics, staked through CGC books, newsprint to spot varnishing, like everything about this stuff. Like Bad Idea has a name opposite to the reality. There are some amazing things, and I'm glad that it is accessible, that everyone can read it and enjoy it. And I hope you are reading it, not just collecting it, because every single one of these stories is worth reading.
There are a lot of great publishers out there right now who are story first or story centric, and seeing that become the way of the world is really good for my heart. But I just want to recommend Cul-de-sac as a way to, if your horror friends are like, I don't know, I've never read Bad Idea before, I know there was some stuff about it, just hand them Cul-de-sac and tell them to shut up and read it.
Yeah. I mean, and I can say that honestly about any of the back catalog that you can track down, which is why I'm glad that they are breaking the rule and having trade paperbacks. The Hero trade was super affordable and well worth your time. But man, having read Survive, you're going to want to get that on your FOC this Monday. Unbelievable. But really quick, another thing on FOC and tying into something that Kyle's been hinting at. This hasn't even been announced to local comic shop day shops in any official way. DCKO's Ashcan is on FOC. I think is that something that we put in the top? We put it in the top 10, so we'll talk a little bit more of that later. That might have been revealed very briefly on my screen. I didn't realize that was going to pop up, so ignore that. A lot of wonderful continuing series. How about a unique one in the way of Everything Dead and Dying? This is an out there book. I'm just going to be 100% honest. It didn't catch my love, but I could see some people who really enjoy it, as Tate Bromble and Jacob Phillips, two powerhouse creators that have both been Eisner nominated, tell a zombie apocalypse tale in a very unique way. As the zombie apocalypse happened, one man survives in his small town and fights to keep everything in his life normal. He wants it to be like the apocalypse never came. However, when the zombie hunters come to town, how do you fight that? It's an interesting take.
In keeping with the theme, there is also a really cool variant of this by Jacob Phillips for local comic shop day.
Yes, indeed. There it is. Yeah, right there. Foil Jacob Phillips local comic shop day variant. So, by the way, if you are a retailer curious about local comic shop day, you can go to the Comics Pro website and sign up,
Localcomicshopday.com.
or localcomicshopday.com. You do not have to be a Comics Pro member to sign up. You just need to be a brick and mortar retail shop. So, for those of you consumers who are trying to get these and you have a digital, look, perfectly fine if you have an online retailer you like to buy your comics from, but it might be worth also finding and supporting a local brick and mortar comic shop if you can, for at very least local comic shop day. I mean, as a brick and mortar retailer myself, as somebody who loves going into the shop, talking with staff, and learning about new things, it's always a fun experience. And that's what local comic shop day is about, showing you what your local brick and mortar comic shop retailer can do for you. So make sure if you're a retail shop, you sign up for it. I think that the guys and gals who are putting it together are definitely onto something and bringing back the fun of local comic shop day. And there's some great covers that are going to be really awesome. Some you'll be able to find anywhere. Some you'll only be able to find at your brick and mortar retailer that is participating in local comic shop day.
I don't forego sleep to work on an event unless it's like great, and I didn't sleep last night working on local comic shop day. So maybe,
I was wondering why you were up all night yelling at me to go to sleep.
Yeah. Well, somebody's got to make sure you take care of yourself.
All right. Hey, you want a great way to spend $10? How about the first 3 issues that really comes out to the equivalent of 6 issues of Exquisite Corpses? Because issue 1 was what, an 80-page tale?
Something like that.
Exquisite Corpses. If for any reason your local comic shop is out of issues 1, 2, and 3, get your order in on the trade. If you skipped on it, if you're a trade waiter, whatever, this is a powerhouse, awesome book. Full all-star cast of creators with the Tiny Onion Group. This is awesome. A lot of things we don't have. Oh, well, now I got to talk about First Comics Companion from the boys at Tomorrow Publishing. Learn all about the incredible early era of First Comics. They're still around today, but this is their original run of 1983 to 1991. They did some of my favorite comics back in the day, from Grimjack and Lone Wolf and Cub. Yes, they were the first publisher to bring manga to the United States. You had Howard Chaykin's American Flag, Nexus, Dreadstar, so many things. You get all the behind-the-scenes stories of the publishing company and what they published in this awesome $35 companion.
Absolutely.
But again, a lot of things we don't have time to talk about. You can see it all at lunar.com. Hero Trade, Project Chimera's final issue on FOC. Hero Bear, if you want a great all-ages book that is fun for families, for kids, and to be honest, even adults. This hardcover of Mike Kunkel's Hero Bear and the Kid, great read. So many fun things that I just wish we had the time to talk about it all. Like I said, Godzilla fighting the Justice League and Kong. Antarctic Press finally back at new distribution through the way of Lunar, thanks to Massive Select Publishing. So you can get your Kaiju Cooking and your Common America that you might have missed that Diamond may not have gotten to your local comic shop. Another local comic shop day one, that beautiful 1-in-10 ratio variant of Catacomb of Torment #1 by Jay Stevens is now an easily open orderable foil that will be a premium purchase at your local comic shop, but well worth it because it's homaging one of the most classic EC covers.
So, and remember, this book has 2 original stories from old EC, from creators that aren't around anymore. Plus, you've got, hold on, I have it written down here. John Akuti, Marguerite Bennett, Matt Kint, with David Lapham and Jay Stevens as well, all on this one book.
Yeah. I love that his name has been written 3 different ways in this. John Arcudi. John.
Well, I might have just spelled it wrong writing it at 5 a.m. this morning.
Oh, did you? I didn't realize you were writing at Lunar Distribution. No.
Well,
Lunar in the solicits here has it 3 separate different ways written.
That's funny.
Yeah. So sometimes it happens. If you haven't checked out Look Into My Eyes, look into my eyes. This is an incredible horror that includes QR codes you can scan to bring the comics horror to life on your digital device. So haunting, twisted, amazing, worth picking up. Try and track down issue number 1, get issue number 2 on FOC. A lot of amazing continuing things. Hold on. Compendium Love again. 48 issues of Monstrous for $60. The multi-Eisner Award-winning masterpiece by Marjorie Liu and Sana Takeda. Must read. Must read. If you haven't read it for any reason, I'm telling you right now, those reasons are horrible. Read this book. It is a masterpiece. $60 for 48 issues. Well worth it. And once again, it was a huge oversized number 1, so it's really like you're getting like 50 some odd issues for $60. A lot of beautiful covers, a lot of amazing tales, a lot of continuing crazy fun. Worth taking the time at Lunar. Rockefellers continuing on because, we were talking about the great Peter Tomasi you got to interview last week. Did you guys get a chance to talk about Rockefellers last week?
Oh, we did.
Oh, such a great comic. Such a great comic.
There's one cover on there that's still giving me nightmares, but we're going to move on from that.
Yeah.
Because I don't need to think about that anymore.
Yeah. A lot of fun. A lot of things. I could spend an additional 2 or 3 hours talking about this. Talking about Silverhawks, which is just blowing up in ways I never thought that tiny 1980s TV show and toy line would. Sisterhood, which is actually, I'm going to be honest, and I know that people from Ghost Machine are watching. It's kind of my favorite comic right now coming out from Ghost Machine outside of Redcoat, but it is that good. So, pay attention to Sisterhood. Skin Police gets a 2nd volume from Oni Press. A lot of fun there if you want haunting horror. We have Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I'll talk about that in our top 10. All those incredible covers on Survive, because we were just talking about Survive with the incredible Robert Venditti. If you missed the interview when we're not live, just rewind and listen to Robert Venditti talk about this awesome book of 2 sailors stuck in a sinking submarine while being at war with each other as they are on 2 opposing sides of the axis of Russia and America. Oh my God, it is insane.
Real quick, Panic Entertainment with Tama. A lot of the people at Panic Entertainment, you will know their names from previous publishers and places they worked at. This book is nuts, especially if you ever owned a Tamagotchi. Just saying, you're gonna be triggered if you ever owned a Tamagotchi. That's all.
Yeah, Pokemon, Digimon, Monster Hunters. You love any of those things, you will love this. Except, it's vicious. I'm not gonna lie, It almost lost me in the first issue. It was so bloody. It was so violent. It was truly terrifying. And yet it's just a tease with these cute covers by Dustin Nguyen, Tony Fleeks doing these amazing Pokemon Game Boy homage covers that are ratios that are going for a fortune on the aftermarket. So talk to your local comic shop and see if they're getting them and how much it would cost, because you want to get them. They're awesome. Tama is haunting. I've actually already read issue number 2 as well, and it doesn't lighten up any. It is violent. It is messed up. Gremlins does nothing to define it's just dark, twisted stuff. But if you want evil, dark Pokemon, Tamagotchi, Digimon, this is it. Thundercats Lost, continuing onward. Same with Thundercats Powerpuff Girls. I can't tell you, almost every single one of the Thundercats Powerpuff Girl covers ended up in the top 10. These are all phenomenal covers. The only reason they didn't all end up in there is it was issue 3, and by now you guys know this is an amazing series you want to read. It is just great. Toxic Crusaders, a new Avengers-style team-up of Trauma characters. All sorts of fun. Reprints of Transformers.
We can give Torma credit. We'll give Torma credit for the Trauma.
Skybound loves its reprints now, so reprints of Transformers, reprints of Walking Dead, now in color, and some trades. But we've been going on for a while. Check out lunardistribution.com. See it all. Let your local retailer know what you want. Let's get to the top 10. All right. Starting it off, Undead Iron Fist. Like I said, Taryn Clark is really blowing up, and this cover is phenomenal. We've got Power Man. We've got Danny Rand. It looks like we have Orson Randall on the cover. All of this looks amazing. It gives me such high hopes for this new series. As a big Iron Fist fan, as a Marvel fanatic, this, I think, is just exciting. And Taryn Clark. Cal Exit, issue number 2 of the Battle of Universal City. And of course, as it's over at Universal City, you're getting all those wonderful things. I am shocked that they're getting away with this. As we're at Moe's Tavern, you have SpongeBob mascots and Scooby drinking. This is out there. It is twisted. It is everything this comic is. And if you love this cover, you'll love this comic with a film on the way. Gesundheit, Kyle. I would sneeze too overseeing the shocking imagery of Miles Morales holding Magic, Ileana Rasputin's blade, but then doing it with Michael Walsh's incredible use of negative space with the white and black, the snow, the webbing, all about this. Makes this already amazing concept across the covers of Incursion 4 a particular masterpiece on this cover. Michael Walsh, just brilliant. Brilliant, Michael. Speaking of brilliant, Greg Land, the artist I associate most with the original Birds of Prey series, back for issue 25 of Kelly Thompson's Birds of Prey. It gives me that Chuck Dixon, Greg Land vibe. Heck, it even gives me the Gail Simone, Greg Land vibe of Birds of Prey. I love Greg. I love Birds of Prey. I love this reminder of this, and it really just harkens back to 20 plus years ago of Birds of Prey. Perfect for this issue 25. So let's talk about the DCKO Ashcan. This is a local comic shop day exclusive. I want to point out, for those of you guys who have been paying attention to the DCKO Ashcans, this is going to be an updated version of the one that was exclusive at San Diego Comic-Con. If you stood in line or paid the aftermarket fees on eBay to get the Comic-Con foil Ashcan, or perhaps you got the Lunar Distribution Ashcan because your local comic shop was really nice and sold it to you, that very rare, hard to get item, this is going to be a better version of that. That is going to be nowhere near as rare, mind you. So you want rare, still go after the Comic-Con things. But if you just want to read it, this includes 5 full-color pages previewing the DCKO by Scott Snyder and Javi Fernandez that will be coming out later this year, that will pit all of the DC universe in a death match against one another. You will be able to get this with an MSRP of $2 for the normal or $10 for the foil edition. You can have the foil just like the Comic-Con style one. It is a local comic shop day exclusive, so you're going to have to go to your local comic shop day participating brick and mortar store. It'll be well worth it because I've read the black and white preview. It's awesome. I can't wait to see it in color, and I really can't wait for this title to hit later. Talk to your local comic shop about local comic shop day. Then Ultimate Hawkeye hits spot number 5. I want to point out, obviously, Ultimate Hawkeye has a local comic shop day variant, which is cool. But for me, it's the Lyrics Lee cover. This Lyrics Lee cover is insane. I mean, of course, we're all going to get Dennis Camp's Ultimate series, let alone Ultimate Hawkeye. But that is quite the cover. All right, now I can talk about The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde by Vincent Mallet. This is a brilliant European graphic novel that'll be releasing for the first time in English through Oni Press and Magnetic. Magnetic has done 2 other Vincent Mallet ones that are these classic, iconic ones. He's done a Sherlock Holmes, Tale in Scarlet, and he has done Lupin, story of the infamous thief Lupin. Now we get The Strange Case of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, the classic Robert Louis Stevenson tale done by Vincent Mallet. I cannot wait to own this. It'll be the perfect third piece on my library, shelf of these items. But even if you don't have the first two, it might be worth going to your local comic shop and asking them to order it. Otherwise, definitely get an order in on this. This is going to be awesome. The last day of H.P. Lovecraft. I mean, we get 2 European books back to back on the top 10 this week. This one, number 3. Kyle talked it up immensely. This is going to be amazing. And I love that Stenbeck cover that has the haunting, visionary thought of the Lovecraftian imagery of tentacles and eyes and mouths and all sorts of haunting things that will fill your nightmares, as Lovecraft work tends to. Got to give Arturo Lozzi credit on the Survive cover. All of the Survive covers are great. The interiors from Doug and Robert are amazing, but Arturo's cover here is brilliant. I love the vertical use of the logo, that falling, effect in the water as the submarine is tanked on the ground. This is going to be a good book. This is going to be an amazing book worth getting your order in. But we're going to top it off with Voyeur, which for some odd reason I did not talk up at Penguin Random House, so I can talk it up now. Voyeur is the big new book from Ignition Press, the new publisher that is coming out. I think they're going to make massive waves this fall with their various comics, such as Murder Podcast and Beauty re-releasing. Voyeur is Leah Williams' very awesome new tale. And, well, there's a ton of great covers. The 1 in 5. And that's, a ratio variant. So not every comic shop is going to get it, but I think your local comic shop, if you request it, will make sure to have this 1 in 5 ratio variant by Unique Packlet, and it is worth it. It might be a little bit more than cover. Probably will be. But it is worth it. Look at how beautiful that cover from Paquette is. It's going to be awesome. And, I mean, mature erotic tales from Leah Williams, sign me up. I'm in. Maria Lovett and Leah Williams both know how to do those mature pieces. So I am all in on Leah Williams with David Baldion doing artwork. This is going to be awesome. Good job, Ignition. All right. That was our top 10 for comics that are finalizing orders with FOC Final Order Cutoff this Monday, August 11th. We have some great books for you guys to get to your local comic shop and order. Kyle, what else do we have on the EXP coming up?
Well, we talked about it earlier. Nick has All-Star Batman number 3, page by page tonight on the art show. And then Nancy's doing her show, which is going to be a little vintage heavy this week. And then next week, we're back with our full slate of shows. There's nothing on this weekend. We may have a little bit of a hangout here on the channel, but take this weekend to visit your local comic shop, pick up some books, make sure you get your order in, and come back Monday for all kinds of new stuff here on the EXP.
Absolutely. We love it when you guys do that. Always reach out to your local comic shop. Give them as much heads up as you can. The sooner you let them know what you want, the better. And as always, give them the love and respect they deserve. Talk to them about local comic shop day. Talk to them about what you're reading and what you enjoy so they can make sure they stock it and maybe even recommend some other amazing things, because that's the wonderful world of the fourth place that is local comic shops. All right. We'll be back next week with more comments on Final Order Cutoff.